In the beginning of the 17th century, slavery was introduced to America, completely changing the country's circumstances since then. As the demand for plantation labor grew, Africans had to be forcibly transported to Americas only to serve their entire lives as slaves. Although the Congress did ban these transportations in 1807, the Africans in America were facing extreme persecution because they were not considered human beings, rather properties of white men. The Second Great Awakening, a religious revival that started in the late 18th century, served as a catalyst to the spread of abolitionist ideas as it emphasized people's moral duties to end sinful practices of slavery and responsibility to regard God as the order of life. Finally, in the beginning of the early 19th century, some started to fight for the slaves' freedom. Quakers' religious beliefs in equality and the Enlightenment thinkers' beliefs in human rights took the first step to the long fight of the abolition of slavery. This is the start of the abolitionist movement in America. The movement was prevalent in northern churches and in politics, which provoked the southern states, where slavery was fully supported. Slavery was a much more complex issue in the Americas than it seemed to be. It was a social and economic base of 11 southern states. Due to this, the South reacted with more brutal control of the slaves to the abolitionist attacks, which made the abolitionists to consider gradualism as a failure and push for an immediate legal ban of slavery. This hostility between the North and South, due to their discordant opinions, could be said to be the primary cause of the American Civil War, but we will not discuss about Civil War here. Continuing, the abolitionist movement was advocated by many eminent Americans, but sometimes rather aggressively. William Lloyd Garrison, an American journalist, was one of the radical abolitionists. He founded the American Anti-Slavery Society. This society used moral suasion or appeal to morality for a change in behavior, arguing that the American society needed a revolutionary change in people's spiritual values because slavery corrupted the country. However, these ideas did not conform to the Christian values, which resulted in internal collisions among the abolitionists. Even abolitionists were divided by themselves. Moderate abolitionists wanted gradual emancipation, free soil abolitionists wanted to prevent the expansion of slavery to western territories, and radical abolitionists wanted immediate end to slavery. Abolitionists did not like the extremist abolitionist ideas and did not want the union of North and South to break. This somewhat diminished the power of the abolitionist movement for a while. However, with the support of active abolitionists Frederick Douglass, Wendell Phillips, and Lucy Stone, the movement regained its power. They actively participated in spreading the abolitionist ideas through literature. Several anti-slavery churches were founded, and the first co-educational school, Oberlin College, was created. Then comes the contentious Dred Scott decision in 1857, one of the most unwise decisions of the U.S. Supreme Court in U.S. history. Dred Scott was a black slave who persistently fought for the slave's freedom that his case eventually reached the U.S. Supreme Court. The Supreme Court denied his freedom and declared that all Americans of African descent, regardless of whether they were slaves or not, were not considered to be American citizens and therefore could not take legal action, a right only the American citizens could exercise. Also, it declared that the Congress did not have the right to ban slavery. This case had a direct impact on the eruption of the American Civil War. Shortly after this infamous case, Abraham Lincoln was elected as the President of the United States, who strongly opposed the spread of slavery. His victory was a huge threat to the southern states. They realized that their main source of profit was in danger. Ultimately, their continuous attempts for secession resulted in the Civil War. In the third year of the war, Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863 that declared all slaves in the southern states shall also be freed. In the year of 1865, the 13th Amendment was added to the Constitution, formally abolishing slavery in the United States. The American Anti-Slavery Society existed until the 15th Amendment, which guaranteed male suffrage to the African Americans, was also added to the Constitution.